So why don't we start off this meeting? Let's just everybody introduce themselves and what do they do. Let's start with a young lady on the left, Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle Coy. I am a leadership and business strategist here in Michigan.
Awesome. I'm Frank Hernandez, host of the Pest Geek podcast and owner of Nature Pest. Maria.
Maria Sorrentino. I am managing partner of Pest Pros of Michigan.
Kevin.
I'm Kevin Lee Masters, 30-year industry guy, kind of in transition right now.
Awesome. And Petey.
My name is Pete LaQualia. I own a company called Canuck, and it's a marketing firm, and I've been in the pest control industry almost 18 years.
Awesome. So the reason I wanted to have this meeting, and I thought it was so vital to have it and do kind of a book review and then how this thing applies to our lives and the lives of others, because what I discovered in this book took me, it took me 50 years. Hold on a second. Come here, girl. You are a pain in the butt. She is climbing all over my desk. She's horrible. Let me get the chairs away from her. But for me, this was not understanding a lot of me was a huge level of frustration in my career for at least 2 decades until I finally just naturally became self-aware of what I was good at and what I enjoyed doing. And then I just started, as I became a mature adult in my 40s and my 30s, said, I don't really enjoy doing this stuff. Why don't I just find the things I truly enjoy? I said, most of the things that I found I truly enjoyed never made any money. And it was a huge source of frustration for me to have a self-understanding that I just couldn't do things because it put food on the table, because it made money. There had to be something more rewarding for me in it. And when I read the book and I listened to the book, I felt like how he was describing himself. And he was like, how did you know me and what I went through in the introduction to that book? And that just kept me so engaged, where then I started listening to and then I understood why. And then when I took the assessment, it kind of like, oh, I get it, because this is exactly where I am and now, but it only took me about 50 years to figure it out. And what frustrated me about working with certain people and why I couldn't work with certain people. So to me, I thought this was so vital that if even people young in college and starting out working would actually read this book, and people who are in business and running their businesses today would read the book and put their people through the survey and did the survey, they would understand so much about who they are and why they try to function like another company and then they can't, and the frustration about it. So I'm going to just go ahead and share mine first, so you guys, and if you have yours, go ahead and feel free to share it. I'm going to share my screen. Where am I? My survey. So you guys, and then we can you can help me and critique it. Is it on the screen?
Yep.
Yes.
You guys can see it. Okay. So for the audience to follow along, because they have no idea what the heck 6 geniuses are. They think this has something to do with actual genius. No, it doesn't. I don't even qualify on the intelligence side. But the working genius model, where I am, it characterizes me as a wanderer and an enabler. And I'm always a daydreamer, always thinking about, I wonder if I did this and if I did that. And this is what led me down the path of holistic pest control, where I just kept wondering, what if? And then I started developing systems. And my other thing is enablement, where I get an enormous amount of satisfaction about helping other people achieve their potential. And it's a really weird combination, because you're always dreaming of things. But it was always, when I was a kid, you start things and you never finish them. you don't see them through the end. Like you start this course so it was more of, I wonder what it would be like to do this. And then once I figured it out, I was already completely bored with it. There was nothing else for me to do. So when I was working and I started a new job, it was awesome because I'm by nature, I'm a troubleshooter, and I could figure out all these areas where they were missing, and I could think of new ways to help them and change the business model and grow and all this. Once that was done, I was bored and I wanted another job. I didn't have any purpose for getting up in the morning. And my real satisfaction came when I was helping the employees learn about this. And once that operation was smooth, my job was done. I had nothing else to contribute. I had to move on. This is what I was good at, turning around stores and taking departments that weren't working and making them work because I'm in operations. And then invention and discernment. This is why I've been good at always dreaming about, I'm going to create products and I'm going to build this and I'm going to build that. And I had invention as one of my things where I'm really good at going out into the field and testing stuff and the curiosity of how things work. That's what turns me on. The what if, and if I did this and I did that, what would happen? This is why I was really good with chemistry sets and blowing things up. And then the discernment, you know, the capable, you don't mind using it to evaluate and assess ideas and plans. But where I fall apart is down at the bottom, the whole galvanizing and tenacity thing. And then the people that know me says, but you have an enormous amount of tenacity. When I enjoy something and I find something I'm good at and I like doing it, I'm like a dog with a bone. But then after that, I lose all interest. And so the galvanizing, like I just started the mastermind group. Like I am terrible at telling people, hey, do you want to join my group? Do you want to join? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Do you want to get involved? I just put it out there, and then whoever joins is in and whoever doesn't. I just don't know how to, like, I'm more of a pastor than I am a cowboy. I don't like going behind people, pushing them to do things. So this is where I get frustrated with people, where I hire a professional and then I have to be on top of them for them to do their job. I totally quickly lose interest in that person and I try to find somebody else because I can't work with them where I have to be on top of them. So that's kind of where my situation is. And then maybe you guys can share yours and kind of give a different example of a different, because we're so complex. And I started looking, there's more than 6 geniuses. It's just that on a level, most people operate in these 6 and they're good, really good at 2, then they can function in 2 more. Then the other last 2, they can do it for short periods of time. But if they do it for long periods of time, it totally disenergizes them. You know, so that's it. So does anybody else want to share theirs?
I can share mine.
All right, let's do that.
Do you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, if
Or-
you can, so people can visualize it. If
Yep.
you can.
Nope, you disabled.
Oh, let me get mine out. I'm gonna
Do I
get
need
mine out.
do I need my results? Like
If you have it, okay, I stopped sharing my screen. Let me see here. Participants, there's 5. And what do I need to do? Can you share yours now?
Let me look.
Multiple participants. Here we go. I got it. I just did it. All right, there you go. Now you can do it.
Yay. So my background is I worked in finance for 28 years. I was
Okay.
always in finance and accounting from 16 until my mid 40s, when I was like, I can't do this anymore. I had started working for a large company that was very nonprofit because it was a tribal government. And that's where I really learned why my discernment and my enablement were my working geniuses, because I loved helping people and getting them resources. As a finance person, I was cutting checks and then hearing the stories of how members were struggling with money, struggling with resources. And that's when I was like, I really love helping others. And I have a bigger purpose than sitting inside this wall. And I had a boss that told me, stick to your finances. And I will tell you, after that review, within 3 months, I had my resignation written, and within 3 months, I left. But I was in the point where I was burned out for 4 months before I could even start working my own business. So I am really good. So as a coach, I am really good because I love helping people discern ideas. So either as a business coach or as a leadership coach, I really help people discern their ideas. I ask them questions before they start implementing some of those ideas. Just making sure that they're looking at all perspectives, financial perspective, personnel perspective. And then I love helping people find those gifts to be successful. However, my working competencies, yeah, I can push people, but like you, Franklin, I hate watching, I get bored and don't like watching the project get done. If I can help people be successful, here, you guys go finish that project, and I'm just helping you with the tools to make you successful. And I definitely am not one, definitely do not like finding ideas. If somebody brings some ideas to me, I will run with it. I will help discern it, but I don't like coming up with the ideas myself. And I can brainstorm with people and say, hey, have you thought about this? But then again, that's almost like that discerning piece. And so when I took this, I was like, oh, this is exactly the reason I had to leave finance, because I was not in a seat on the bus where I could easily help others. I could do my job, but I was doing it for one company. And just looking back in the accounting world, I realized I loved helping people set their books up, explain to them what things need to be on there, help discern what they were looking for on their financial statements, and then teaching them how to use their financial statements. So that's when this Working Genius, I was like, this is the perfect mix, exactly what I need to help other businesses be successful, because we could look at the whole team and say, what do we need, especially in the hiring piece.
Awesome. Maria, you're up.
I'm up. All right. Like, which one? Okay. Hold on a second, guys. Sorry.
No worries.
All right. I can't figure out how to. Let's try this. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. Technology. Okay. So here's mine. And my geniuses are galvanizing and discernment. And it was so eye-opening to me when I first took this assessment, because like kind of the people around me are kind of, that thing of like, I'm a little too cheerleader for them, like, I don't know if you guys have met my daughter. Pete calls her Wednesday Addams. She's like, she's very much like, down here. And so she will always just be like, oh, you're too much, like you're doing too much. You're like too whatever. And when I read this thing, I was like, oh my goodness, this is my gift. Like my gift is kind of being that cheerleader and bringing people together and that kind of thing. Also, this ties into my disc because I'm that high I. And so I kind of already knew that was part of my personality, but then seeing this really made a lot of sense to me. And then also in the frustrations, my working frustration is tenacity, which is so interesting because I agree with you, like where I'm like, I consider myself pretty tenacious. However, I do realize that I like to start things and I like to pull people from the front. I don't necessarily like to finish things. And my daughter and my husband both have the genius of tenacity. And so now that I know this, I just pass off. I'm like, I get things going, and then I'm like, okay, cool, you guys, here you go. You guys can like take it. And they're very good at being able to push things through and follow through. And you kind of know that like when you give them something, it's gonna get done. So like that's awesome. And then discernment was also another one that was really eye-opening to me, because I tend to ask for feedback a lot from other people. And so that one was a interesting one for me to go like, oh, actually your genius is being able to discern ideas. So that's kind of an interesting thing. And I think that does tie in, because I am able to take multiple different opinions from multiple different people and then kind of run them through my own filter. So and then the wonder and enablement are my working competencies, and I can definitely see that. I was gonna say to you, Michelle, I know that yours is definitely enablement, because you're able to come alongside people and like help them to bring something, like which is an awesome skill. I tend to not have the patience for that so much. And so yeah, so I was really blown away by seeing this. And then the same thing with invention. I'm not typically the idea person. Typically it's taking other people's ideas and being able to help with them. I'm not normally the inventor. So so yeah, those are mine.
All right. Kevin, let's go.
Okay. Let's see here.
Yeah, I don't know if Maria has to cancel hers.
Yeah,
or-
let me, okay.
Yep.
Uh,
That way you can get yours
Okay.
up there. There we go. All right.
You guys see my screen?
Yep.
Excellent. I love this stuff, Franklin. I tell you, Pat Lencioni has some great assessments. I don't know if you guys have read The Ideal Team Player. You know, humble, hungry, smart. Good, just basic assessment. When he came out with this, 18 months ago or so, I was really excited to take this. And I don't know that I was overly surprised by the outcome, but I love what it measures and how. I think about my journey over the years in the industry. Those of you who don't know me, you know, I started as a technician and worked my way up through the ranks with a regional size company, and then worked for a national company, and then for 9 years was co-owner in a business out in Colorado. And it's interesting. I didn't have my previous partner take this because we had sold our business and had kind of going down different paths at this point. But I'm pretty sure that my working frustrations were his working genius, in the sense that I am not a wonder and invention guy. And, you know, you think about most business owners, people who go out and start a business, and entrepreneur spirit, they typically have one or both of these as, you know, their working genius. And that's why they're out, you know, doing the things that they're doing. And so with my genius being the galvanizing and enable it, it really, we complemented each other so well, because he had great ideas. And, you know, those of you who have, you know, one or both of those traits know that, you know, it's easy to, you know, Maria, you said it, get something started, get it going, and then, you know, you just don't have the ability to kind of see it through or get it finished out. And, you know, that's what I enjoy doing, is rallying around people and trying to figure out where their strengths are, and helping to encourage them to play in their strengths, to help the team, you know, accomplish what that ultimate goal is. So, you know, I really appreciated this type of assessment that came out. And as you can see, galvanizing and enablement are mine. You know, I like to rally people, encourage others to get things done. And then again, when it comes to the nuts and bolts of things, I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty. You know, I'll get in and help to evaluate what needs to be done, help process ideas, you know, encourage people in their thought process to help grow and develop them, you know, and the tenacity side of things as well. You know, I can get things all the way to the finish line if I need to. You know, Franklin kind of alluded to this. You know, it's easier to do that if it's something that you're really enjoying doing. And I think that's true for most of us. But I find that even in some of the things that I don't enjoy as much, it's kind of important to me to make sure that things get finished and finalized. So And then of course, lastly, the wonder and invention. You know, I love the conversations around vision and new ideas, but I'm just not the guy who sits around and, you know, has all these great just ideas coming up. Oh, I need to go do this. I need to go try this. And but I love sitting in the room with those people and those thinkers, because it helps. It inspires the other aspects of my working genius, in the sense that as they're beginning to talk about all these amazing things and ideas that they have, all of a sudden in my mind, I can see how they're coming together. I can see who on the team, you know, wow, this person could really help get this to the finish line. Well, this person could really do well in this part of this project or this piece of it. So again, one of the things I really love about this model as a whole is, I think, you know, when we realize those things that we do well and the things that frustrate us, and we can leverage that, I think especially as a leader, you know, it's important that we have self-awareness and we know how we're wired. But if we're leading a team of people, we need to understand our team as well. We need to understand what their working geniuses are, you know, what they do well, what they struggle with, so that we can, you know, put those things together. And, you know, if we're leveraging that in our team, man, there's just nothing we can't do. So good stuff.
Pete, you're next.
Okay. All right.
I'm gonna take a stab at this with Pete, and I said wonder and invention is gonna be Pete's strongest suits. I'm gonna see if I'm wrong about this.
Close. Oops.
Ah,
it?
see, I wasn't so far off.
No. So, some of you guys have worked with me, and I think, you know, one of the biggest thing that I'm a big believer in is one, when we're working, what's the intent of what we're doing, and understanding what that intent is and what we're trying to deliver. Even when we started a pest control company, it was, how can we separate ourselves in the industry so we're not going toe to toe with other competitors, right? And then breaking everything down and understanding the why of what we're doing, right? We just weren't a natural pest control company, but there was an actual purpose from it, so that we have storytelling. So if we're starting to share something, or there, you know, if people are asking like, well, why are you a natural pest control company? We have a legit story, a deep understanding of what the products are, or even what the actual goals are. But as you can see, like, my working frustrations are tenacity and enable. Is it enablement? Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, right there. Tenacity. And I am a lone person. I don't like to work with other people. And I cannot work like on a schedule. I can't, because I like to bounce around from ideas, because what might be great for somebody else, or if I'm actually creating something for a client, I get this idea and I'm like, oh, this is going to work really well with this other client. And so I want to start to implement that. When we started taking like personality tests, it was, the best understanding was, how can I hire people that are my weakest? The operations manager, you know, the warehouse manager, all of that stuff. There's certain structures I just don't care about. And so when I started like understanding like what my mindset is and how I operate, it really kind of changed the dynamics of how we restructured the pest control company, right? I'm good at like understanding what the trends are, understanding like how users like would operate or perceive the like storytelling, right? It's like, I grew up, I did theater growing up, I did a lot of improv, and all of that, like reading body language, or even like reading how someone reacts. It's like, either you go, do I need to pull this back, or do I keep moving forward? And then start engaging them more, right? So the discernment, it's like a lot of that is like reading people's body language or reading how people are reacting or how people are interacting with you, so that I can properly engage. And that's the best part of it all. And I know Maria knows, it's like I like, what's the why? Like, what's the purpose? Like, what's the user experience? And if none of those things are answered, then, it's a big red flag for me. Like, I mean, I get like tenacity enablement, if we're looking at like analytics and stuff, but there's still got to be a why, And so I know it's frustrating because I break a lot of things down when I'm like, I don't know about that program. And, it can be frustrating for people who don't understand that. I get it, but I can't help but ask the question why,
Right.
Is that all?
Oh, if that's what you'll have, I got follow-up questions for all of this. I'll start with you, Pete, since you were last. And you tend to have the whole issue of invention discernment and why it would be frustrating for you to work on a team. Because a lot of people the people that have this, as far as the tenacity and enablement requires that you're caring and that you want to help people in a certain way, but yet you have to work with people. I mean, it becomes very difficult to work. You said yourself, you'd rather work alone for certain reasons. In your company, let's just take it down now to the granular of where you were in your company and a lot of the frustrations you had in growing a pest control business because of that. How did that, understanding that, and did you understand that then, or do you understand it now, like after you took this, and how long before you figured that out, that these frustrations wouldn't allow you to work really tightly with people in certain ways, or am I missing it?
No, I figured that out pretty quick with the God, what is that person? Like, I'm an INTJ. So I figured it out. I can't remember what is that?
Myers-Briggs. Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs. I found it out with Myers-Briggs. I found it, figured it out when, what we call in the house a talking doctor. It's a psychologist that I see every single month. I have an obsessive compulsive personality disorder, which already says that I don't like working with team members. That I don't like because it's, I'm a very like everything that I want to do is like very like precise, right? It's like if I'm, doing sheetrock work or something, I want nice, smooth seams. I want it to all look consistent. I can't just patch something up and lightly sand it and do it because I'm going to know that imperfection is there. And it's frustrating because I know that there are lots of people who are okay with walking away with something that's halfway done. It drives me insane. I mean, there are, there's a church that we used to go to, and they got like all new tile, and the tile company didn't rotate the tiles or didn't shuffle the tiles, right? So when you walk in, it's the same pattern over and over and over again. In that marble tile, right? So it's like that dark spot on the top right corner. It's on the next 30 tiles all the way around. That dark spot's right there. Instead of like rotating it, shuffling it with a bunch of things, what you're supposed to do, right? When you lay tile, you're supposed to shuffle and interchange your boxes and stuff. And so I just could not get past that every time I walked in. And so I was like, I can't handle this. Like there's so many, if a church can live with this, how can they, it's just a weird mentality, but it like patterns and things that should have been caught by professionals or patterns. Those are just a big thing that I mean, essentially like where I use my discernment on, and it eats away at me. It's just, so like I found it like my personality more and more once I was diagnosed with an obsessive compulsive personality disorder. And I started like going to a doctor. I'm like, nobody likes to work with me. My staff, they think I'm the biggest jerk, and come to find out, yeah, there's a reason why. you know?
Yeah. So dealing with technicians on the granular level, on the everyday operations of all the things they're supposed to be doing, and you've got 10 techs and one guy doesn't do it exactly the same, that would just drive you nuts every single day of your life as a manager.
Oh yeah. 100%. Like I can't, there's a method and, you know, a creation, right? Like even like when we go out and we service people's homes, it's not, we're not like that company that sprays and drops granules and sweeps down cobwebs and we take off.
Right.
You know, we are a very specialized company, and this is why we can, you know, charge at the prices that we did charge at. And then come to find out, you only had a certain group of people that can actually do it. So then it's like I had to really kind of pivot and go like, how do I use these guys like on initials? And then the guys who are just like technicians or haven't really caught on about the concept of like IPM or whatever, they were more of our maintenance crew, right? They would go out, service the exteriors and stuff like that. If there was a service call or a reoccurring issue, then our floaters, the guys that would do new starts and sales and stuff, they would go out and engage that customer and then and solve it accordingly. And what was good about that was that when you started finding gifted people, you can train them better than like just bringing technicians in nonstop. So I had to like rechange my the way I ran my business, or even my technicians go, there's just going to be technicians. That's just it. And there's going to be people who want to grow on it. And that was a hard transition because I felt like everybody needed to do that, you know. But at the end of the day, when you start looking at numbers, you go, we really just need maintenance people as well, you know, like so that we can increase our profits and turn around work a little bit faster. And then our floaters were the guys who spent that quality time, that had that natural gift of communicating with customers or putting customers at ease and then solving issues. And so that's when like when the that personality test started coming in, and everybody was required to take it so I could see where their gifts were.
Got it. Let me ask you this now, switching over from the day-to-day operations and the tech, how was your relationship then based on this? What about with operations and management and all of your key people? Because since you're not galvanizing and you're not enablement, how do you lead them? Or that would have been a struggle for you to try to lead a group even of those people. How did that relationship go?
No, not really, because when I started finding people who were hiring people based off like their personality tests, like our operations manager Bobby, he was an engineer. I mean, he created you know, he drew directions, you know, on, I don't know, like he, you know, was the guy who drew directions and was like, this is how like you put this system together or whatever. And then, you know, so you looked at the text and you looked at the pictures, but that was his, right? So it was very structured. And so somebody like that it was great at like management and deadlines and schedules and things like that, right? So right. And he knew what his ultimate role was, you know, as the operations manager. And then I would just meet with them once a week. And I mean, so to hire an engineer who had a career, I mean, you're looking at like just an operations manager. I mean, that's a 6-figure salary.
Right.
But like the way he communicated with staff, the no like nonsense of like, what this is how everything needs to be done. You know, he was able to communicate that better, where I was just very frustrated and I would pace around and go like, this is the stupidest thing. Like, I don't understand. So what if it rains and it's, you know, and it's cold and it's hot? Like, you're not going to get a cold. You know, you're not going to get a freaking cold, you know, because of that. It's stupid. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Where he was more genuine, I guess. Like, it's a weird personality. It's a very weird personality.
Yeah. It's interesting. Kevin, let's talk about, you know, the things that you mentioned in your career and how you did it. Just get a little bit more on the granular level for the guys who are trying to run pest control business. They don't understand why it is. Sometimes it's, well, I don't know why, like I said, I come off as a jerk, or, you know, I don't know how to lead people. It has to do a lot. Everything has to do with our DNA and personality. And a lot of people are so like wanting to change their DNA. And I can't. I realize I can. There's certain things about me that are inherent that I can't change, and things that and I'm not going to keep trying to play my weaknesses, and understanding when you need to bring in somebody that's totally opposite to you, where we want somebody every time I talk to a technician, I want to get somebody just like me that can do this, and this. And I said, you're asking for disaster, because if he could do this, and this, he would be running a company, not working for you. So the idea of what people want and what they say, and understanding that they actually need, like I was looking at my profile of what I needed as a person next to me. And my perfect example would be Eric. I'll give you an example of Eric. Eric is my social media guy. He wants to be behind the scenes. He doesn't want to be seen. He's super creative. He's a musician. He's an artist. And he wants to be left alone. And he doesn't want to engage with people. And he doesn't get SEO. And I'm frustrated because I'm trying to teach him SEO, but he doesn't think in those terms. He thinks in the creative, and I'm wanting him to be more analytical. And so then I take over things, but he's like my perfect match. I tell people jokingly all the time, if we were a gay couple, you'd be like my perfect mate, because we would just get along perfectly because of the way we've had a relationship for 20 years. So it's just funny that what people think they want and what this reveals that they actually need. Speak to us, as you led a large organization and you had people working for you and all that. Just get down to the granular level on that one for me.
Yeah, you know, I think, Franklin, it really comes back to, number one, the owner, the leader of that organization needs to understand themselves. You know, some owners are great leaders. I mean, they're great at inspiring a team and encouraging people and seeing the strengths in them and really helping to foster that. And then, you know, their businesses typically thrive because, again, they just have a natural knack for seeing and identifying those things. I don't think that's the majority, unfortunately. I think that's the minority. I think the majority of the business owners, you know, they have that wonder and invention, and, you know, they're chasing shiny things, and, you know, in their minds, a lot of times, I mean, my experience in talking with these guys, in their mind is, you know, the reason they're promoting a technician into a leadership role is because that technician was a great technician and understands the things that need to happen on the ground level. So, you know what, they understand that. I don't understand that. So let's let them deal with that. Well, they understand it on a level that they know how to do it. Unfortunately, we, and I shouldn't say we as an industry, as a culture, we do a really bad job of preparing individuals that we want to move into that next level to be ready to lead others. You know, I'm helping facilitate some middle management stuff right now that's not necessarily industry specific around this exact thing, because, again, I mean, those of you who have been around for any kind of time, I mean, you see it and hear it all the time. We promote our best technicians, you know, and then we wonder why they struggle. And, you know, it's because they don't know how to lead. I mean, some of them, it's a natural fit because they led themselves really well. They were, you know, and they understood that, you know, that's what needs to happen. You know, I get really frustrated when I hear leaders, especially when it's technicians moving into a new leadership role. I kind of understand it, but leaders that have been around for a while, and they're like, well, I'm tired of babysitting people. I'm tired of, you know, and it's like, well, you know, if people didn't need to be managed and led, we wouldn't need managers. We wouldn't need them. But guess what? People need managed, you know, and some people need more management than others. And, you know, unfortunately, somebody who doesn't necessarily understand their job function really well, maybe they don't understand, in most cases, they don't understand themselves very well. We're spending all this time and energy trying to manage them. And unfortunately, we're not spending the same amount of time on those that are doing really well, we're not encouraging them, we're not fostering their development and their growth. And a lot of times we lose great people because of that, or we lose great people because they see that we're spending all of our time and energy on those that are sucking the time and energy and aren't adding value to the team as a whole. And so again, coming back into how this plays into that is, again, just understanding where people fit in and how they function, how they add value to the team, and then moving those pieces around or moving those pieces out completely. But too many times from a leadership perspective, owners, they just don't have the self-awareness there. I mean, I hate to say that, but they got an ego, they got a chip on their shoulder, they started their own business, they went out and they knocked it out of the park. And then it came time for them to bring somebody in, and guess what? They're churning through 3 or 4 people a year, and it's the other person's fault every time. Oh, I just can't find good help. There's just not any good help out there. Well, how come you can't find it, but yet this company over here is finding new people and bringing them on? Maybe there's a common denominator there that you just haven't realized yet. Maybe what you need to do is hire a recruiting firm or pay somebody to find a good person that would come in and fit what you're looking for to grow your business, because you're not the person to do that. And I think that's one mistake that a lot of business owners make is, they try to be the person to be in charge of every aspect of their business. And, this assessment here tells you you're not good at everything. And so,
as a matter of fact, you're not good at most of it.
Yeah. And so if not, then you know what? Spend a little money, make an investment into someone or into a organization, that can help you fill that gap with the right person. And that small investment, the return you'll get on that will be phenomenal, because now you have a person in there that's doing exactly what you needed, because you didn't have the skill set or the ability to go about finding that person or identifying that opportunity, whatever it is we're talking about, whether it's people or a process or whatever, but invest into an area that's going to help you get where you need to be. And once you do that, then now you've got team members in place, or you have partnerships with organizations that are helping to fill the gaps where you're just not that good. I was fortunate enough when I was in Colorado at Pest, Mark Dykstra was my business partner. He founded Lobster Marketing. I didn't have to worry about SEO and marketing and a website. We had one of the best in the country, because I had one of the best in the country that was my business partner. And we knew the spaces that we played in well. And so he stayed out of the day-to-day operations, and I stayed out of the marketing and SEO stuff. And, we complemented one another. And it's rare you see those kind of relationships work really well. I know a number of folks in our industry that do partner really well. There's a lot of really successful companies in our industry that have, team members that have come together and, they stay inside their boundaries. That doesn't mean they don't, wander in there now and then and, cause a little trouble. I think, we can't help ourselves sometimes to, cross the line and think we're helping, if you will. But, those that really understand each other and aren't afraid to have hard conversations and communicate well, they realize where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are, where their working genius is. And, when you're flowing in that, gosh, you have great success. But I think, again, I'll just come back to a lot of folks they let their ego get in the way, they let their pride get in the way. And, if they'll just step back and say, hey, I don't have it all figured out, let's look at some of the tools that are out there. This is one of the most cost-effective assessments somebody can get their hands on.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That really could make a huge difference in your organization. If you're at that point where you're like, hey, we need to figure out who goes where and who does what well, and how we move forward. This is a great tool for that.
No, awesome. Maria, you're in the thick of it now. These two guys, built pest control businesses, but you're actually in the middle of this, where you're building a pest control business. You've built it to a very nice size. You're starting to get more serious about operations and putting the right people on the bus and taking the wrong people off the bus. I wish Pete Chopin, I think he was watching us. I wish he was here, because he went through that process for 10 years where he had too many of the wrong people on the bus and he had to make a decision. He was frustrated, done, and he had to get a bunch of those people off and change his strategy. We have the benefit of learning from that. But you're in the middle of this. Let me ask you this: out of all the people that you have in your organization, have everybody taken this, your techs, and everybody taken this survey yet, or no?
No, I gave it to the top leadership. I actually did it back when it first came out. I don't know when that was, a year, 18 months ago, whatever. We're gonna now revisit it now that the book has come out. But yeah, my top people did at that time. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because going back to Kevin's comment about putting people in place and the right people and promoting people to management. I'm implementing a lot of this in my business early on, where I do assessments on every employee when they first come in. I just do a different assessment to kind of understand, but I'm going to start giving everybody this one now too. And the biggest issue that I've had in the industry, which I made a very strong critique and I got death threats over it, is that the majority of service managers in the industry are doing nothing more right now in the most cases, especially the larger the brand. This was the strong comment that I made, that they're basically glorified babysitters and going in to apologize to the customer. Why? For the same reason. They were a really good tech. They needed somebody in that position. Rather than hire somebody with management skills that can lead people, they promote a senior tech because he's really good at the tech. He's really good. But now guess what? He sucks at managing and leading people, because he was very good with the customer. He was very good with a technician. He probably would have been better as a senior technician and leave him there than to promote him into a management role with no grooming. Because if you find, okay, this is my best guy, let me survey and says he's got people skills, let me invest in him and training him for succession, then he would probably stand a chance. But we throw them in there and then we say, well, he was a great tech and he failed, and now he's frustrated, and now he has to go back down a level, which takes all these ego trips with everybody. And I find that right now, like I'm doing a lot of, like, since I have wonder and invention in my DNA, I always wonder what happens if I throw this guy this job to do and see how he would handle it. And then I did it company wide now with all my techs. And then I find some people are striving, others are just can't handle it. So they just, like he said, like Pete said, they'd just be great as a maintenance tech, maybe up to a lead tech where they solve really good problems. But when it comes to, I need you to follow up with the client, I need you to call, I need you to do this, they just fall apart. And our frustration is that everybody should be able to do this. And then we're taking it down just to the simplicity of the tech level. How many techs you have right now that you're dealing with, Maria?
I think it's about 12.
Okay, so 12. So talk to us about that, and then what you see, because based on what you know on this assessment, you can kind of realize, oh, so-and-so has this gift, so-and-so has that gift. You're starting to dabble and identify this. What's your strategy right now? What are you doing, and what do you plan to do, and how is that working out for you right now in the interim?
Yeah. Well, I really love everything that Kevin said. I totally second all of that. And he can probably articulate it better than I can, but we have always done the DISC assessment. So that's been our kind of go-to when we hire people and when we bring people on, is like, I want to know how they operate in that way. So we do kind of use that as a starter. I'll be honest, I have kind of organize my company in a way that I'm not necessarily dealing with the technicians in the day-to-day, if that makes sense. And so I'm not a very good manager. I don't really like to manage people, which was a real issue in the early days, because I had to do it and I hated every minute of it. And I would definitely say that, like, I hate babysitting people, like that whole thing, And so what I found out about myself through this whole thing is I really, really, really enjoy leading people. But you only can lead, that's a very select, in my experience, that's a select group of people that are that mature and able to be led without being managed. And so I've just really kind of surrounded myself now with like my top leadership are people who are that, and they are better managers than me. And so they're more willing, they're more able to do that day-to-day stuff. I'm kind of removed even from the pest control. So even asking me pest control questions, like it's been years since I've been in the field, you know, like, so I've kind of put it in that way where it's like I deal with more of the stuff that are my strengths, which is, you know, more of the relationships and the community and the marketing and those types of things. And I've surrounded myself with other people who really enjoy the other pieces of that. And so I can definitely see their skills in these. Like I said, the biggest one that was the biggest eye opener for me was the tenacity one, because I could tell, like, as soon as their test came back as tenacity, I was like, I know that because if I give them something, I never think about it again. Like it doesn't even cross my mind whether they did it or not. Like I know they did it because I gave it to them, and that's their strength. So I think the other thing that is really big in this for me is you would probably be sick if you knew what my training and education budget is, because it's a very big line on my P&L, because I am really I believe that in order to grow the company, you have to grow the people. And so Michelle is actually one of the people that comes on staff and comes along and supports and helps, and Alan is too. And we're constantly developing. It's like we are constantly offering those opportunities, because the truth of the matter is everybody that came along for Pest Pros with me was absolutely green, you know, like, so we did take the best technicians and turn them into managers, but we didn't leave them alone to figure it out, you know, like we really gave them a lot of tools and a lot of resources. We continue to do that, and try to support them as much as we can. And I think the crazy part is just in the last like month or so, I feel like we've arrived. I really like things were very challenging and very difficult in the early days of getting that stuff figured out. And I want to say it's kind of like chess. It's like you put somebody somewhere, you go, oop, okay, hold on, wait, like let's move you over here. Okay, you know, like, so and that was very, very challenging for people. That was very hard because they kind of felt like I was always changing my mind, and I was like, it was a lot of fast moving because we grew so quickly. And so it was like when you put someone in a role and you would realize it wasn't working, we didn't have the luxury of time, so we would have to maneuver, you know. And so we did a lot of that, and we lost, I mean, truthfully, we lost a lot of people during those transitions because if you're not an entrepreneur and you're not used to that level of fast, quick change, and it can be a little disruptive. So but now within the last month, I actually just told them at the team meeting this week, is like the company operates without me, which is, you know, like it operates without me. It's amazing. And so now the value that I bring to the business today is I work on growth. I work on strategy. I work on, you know, some of those bigger types of things. But as far as like the operational stuff, that's what the team is doing. And they, like I said, they have the skills and the strengths for that, and are much better suited for those things than I am. So,
right. Yeah. So, you know, and we've had a couple of conversations around this. When a technician, let's say like me, starts out owning a business, we tend to be that, you know, either that perfectionist that wants everybody to, since I was a lead tech, I was the best tech at my company, I want everyone to be as good as I am. And then they have no patience to deal with that amount of chaos, where they realize, they think, oh, there must not be any good people out there. Like Kevin said, everybody sucks, everybody is the wrong guy, because when the chaos does happen, and it will, they're not good at managing the chaos and realizing that the chaos is part of the game.
Yes.
That it's when you're growing and when you're developing and when you hired a person with these sets of skills, but now your business grew to here and now you need these sets of skills, but you don't have them in yourself or in the person you hired, but you hire another person just like this one, looking for somebody like yourself. I mean, it's like understanding, like it's like a Jekyll and Hyde sometimes personality, where you feel like what is wrong with everybody or what is wrong with me, and you're questioning yourself as what is wrong with me. Sometimes if you're self-aware that you're just, you must not be cut out. Because to Kevin's point, where he said, well, how are these people growing and they're finding people, says, but the excuse is, yeah, but they're cheating. They're doing subpar service. They're just, door-to-door company just, and it's always, they're always, you don't know the inner workings, understanding that there is always managed chaos. I mean, I have a Tom Peters book on my library, Thriving on Chaos, back when I was in college. So that 30 something, 40, I think 30 something years. And understanding that there will be that chaos if you want to grow, and understanding that that's part of the game. And then how do you manage it? And a lot of them don't have the aptitude to manage it. And that's where I think these guys are missing it. And then when we talked about SOPs that aren't automatic, like I have all my SOPs for my sales guy. I'm now talking to a sales guy on a daily basis, doing daily coaching on all the problems he's encountering. And most people don't have the tolerance for that. But that requires me to put off right now some of my marketing efforts, because this is where I'm really thriving. And I found my niche and why I enjoy doing the SEO and the marketing. Pete, you would be surprised how much my calls have gone 29% in the last 90 days on the changes I've made that I took it over. So, nice. But I'm better at it than the 3 companies I've hired.
Well, I
can't get to it.
But here's the thing, haven't you always been pretty good at it?
Yes, but I didn't know what I didn't know. In other words, I was missing pieces of it that I didn't understand.
Yeah, well, yeah, because you didn't ask the right questions when interviewing people.
Yeah.
Right, and that's like one of your weaknesses?
No, actually, I'm really good at getting information from people. It's just that when I was doing the SEO, I was basing it upon the information that was available in the industry, not from any real insider that I had a relationship with. So it was my wonder and amazement and things. Wonder if I did this, what would happen? And then I would test, so that's just my curious nature going down that route. So now the marketing's on hold, but thank God I got a sales guy to answer all the phones. And I'm dealing with my people where we're at a stage where I can't answer every single call and call the client. So I'm having them do it. And one of them is great at it, and the other one just keeps dropping the ball. And no matter how I try to coach him and teach him, he just doesn't get it. So I realized that I have to take that back. And that's one of my biggest as a manager, that I want to hand stuff off. And a lot of people want to hand stuff off to somebody and say, I want somebody to handle. So we end up management by abdication versus in the cost of investing in people and investing in that team, where that team is going to develop. But since I want it quick and fast, I'll start. But I said, wonder if I give all this and do it, and then they're able, and then I'm taking stuff back. So like from one guy, I'm going to be able to take it back if it doesn't correct itself within the next week. The other guy's doing fantastic. I took some stuff away from my Eric, which he wasn't good at the SEO part of that, because I saw the call, the subscriptions went like this when he took it over. And even though I've been coaching him, he just doesn't have it. So therefore I can't insist on just doing it. So having the idea of taking things back when you delegated them, but realizing that the person that you delegated it to didn't have the capacity, and it's that chaos of back and forth in the beginning until you actually develop your team, that most people don't have the tenacity in that area. And it's just easier for them to revert back to a single operator. And I've talked to many who had 4 or 5 techs and said it was a nightmare. I couldn't do it anymore. With 4 or 5 techs, I reverted back to just being a solo operator. So that's where, that's my thinking in there. Michelle, you've been working with her, so you have a little bit of insight of what I'm talking about in this. Give me your 2 cents on the assessment, how businesses could apply it and use it for other people, and a lot of the challenges that we have. Because when I gave this survey, my survey, I gave it to Eric, who's known me for 20 years. He says, I disagree with the last part. You have an enormous amount of tenacity. So it kind of can, in the truest sense of the word, a lot of this could be misunderstood. And as a coach and as a person that's dealing with people, how do we as owners and the coach navigate this to understand it?
So for me, it's really looking at it when you're going to start hiring people. When you're looking at your leadership team or your office, your CSRs and your office team, you need to look at, where are the weaknesses? Are there frustrations? Because if you have somebody that's always doing that tenacity, always finishing the project, you're going to burn that person out, just like he was referring to in the book. And you have certain people that if you don't have one of those working geniuses on the team, you're going to burn somebody out because they're working in their consistent or their competencies, but they're struggling because that's not where they bring joy. And you eventually get it to where they don't want to work there. They become frustrated. You start seeing disruptions in the operations, such as drama, people starting to talk, not feeling good enough, feeling imposter syndrome. And so you have to start looking and using it as a tool or a guidance and looking at your entire team to see if you've got them in the right places and what to delegate. And I'm going to piggyback off of what Kevin was talking about, investing. When you're investing in somebody, oftentimes business owners make the mistake of investing in the people that have the weaknesses. Instead, according to the Pareto principle, you should be investing in the 20% of your strongest people, because once you're investing in that, they can help those other people work up if that's what those people choose. Because you really have to ask people, what is their intention of working here? Are they here for a job? Are they here to move up in the company? Because if you understand that intention, then you can understand what to do with them. Because Maria, some of her employees are here because I'm just here to work. That's all I want. There's others that are like, hey, I want to move up, give me some more education, let me strive in other areas within the business. And yet there's other ones that just want to be leaders. They want to do the management, but they don't necessarily want the doing anymore. And for myself, I recognized I don't like to do. I'm great at accounting. I'm great at finances, but I don't like to do it anymore. And that's where my burnout led to. And so I realized, hey, let me get up here in the clouds and help discern people. Let me help you bring your team together. Let's look at the whole. And that's, I feel, is what we've been able to do with Pest Pros and other businesses that I've been working with, is helping them understand their working geniuses.
Right. You mentioned something, and let's talk to the person for a moment, because the amount of people that listen to me on this podcast, I would say the great majority are probably solo operators. I would say probably 90%. They're just one-man shows. They have tried the growing thing and have failed, and then they just decided it isn't for me to grow. I think they were missing tools. I think they're hanging around brothers that flock together. They're in the solo group thinking they have a relationship with these guys, and it's like the blind leading the blind. You're asking me how to grow, and they keep asking questions how to grow in a solo group, when a solo group has no ability to tell you how to grow because they haven't done it. So I think they need to surround themselves. This is one of the reasons why I started a mastermind, which isn't really a mastermind. It's more of a network group, but nobody, you know, I have to use clickbait, you know, to get people to want to be involved in something, because I'm not going to chase you down. So the going to that, you know, giving these assessments and saying, okay, becoming self-aware of where your weaknesses are. And then what I learned is that I have to be patient with myself, because I'm so impatient. You know, this doesn't measure this type. So the why multiple assessments are good, you know, take the DISC assessment, take this assessment. I use the assessment from Progressive. I think what is called is the Progressive Index that does the employee assessments, and the other one from Criteria Corp for employees. But it doesn't measure a lot of things, like, you know, the question you just asked, what is your intent? You know, interviews, but people don't know how to interview. So we got a big problem with people who want to grow, who are technically minded, who don't understand that you need to ask certain questions. And, you know, you got to, I tell people, it's like fishing. You know, what fish do you want to catch? Well, depends what bait and what lure and what line and where you're at. So you have to learn these things if you want to be. I suck as a fisherman. I just want to throw the bait in the water and wonder why they eat it, and I don't catch any fish. You know, and then my daughter does the same thing, that she catches 3 fish. You know, I don't get it. But this is where, you know, as a coach, and here's the other side of the coin. I can't afford a coach. You know, in other words, some people are stuck because they don't have the understanding. So this is why I wanted to do this book. And I thought this book was so pivotal, because it gives you some basics on yourself, that if you understand that, then you can decide to say, I don't need to hire another person that's an innovator and a dreamer. And this is exactly what you end up hiring, because, oh my God, we get along, we see eye to eye. You know, we think about things the same way. I said, that's the last thing you want. I want healthy friction in my business relationship, for somebody to look and say, yeah, but you're missing this. You didn't see that. You're not looking at the whole picture. Like, for instance, my girlfriend, she's a financial analyst, but she's a pure financial analyst, and she loves it. And she will second guess me on everything I want to do. And then she'll want 15 answers of why this and how is this and how, and she wants to know every single little detail. And I said, I haven't even gotten that far yet. This is just a freaking idea, you know? So how do you, let's say you work with me for a minute, and I'm a solo operator and I want to get to the next step. How do I use this? And then what would be like my next step to really hiring my first employee? Realizing I can't hire, I'm going to have to still wear 7 hats. And which one do I hire first? Do I hire a technician? Some people say, no, hire a technician as fast as you can. Others will say, hire a receptionist, because you're better at in the field right now, and she could fill that gap for you, and you can produce 30% more. How would you look at that?
So first of all, I would ask you, what is the cost you're paying right now by not hiring a coach or a mentor, or finding a mentor out there?
Right.
Because there's value there is so many free mentoring services out there. There's the Small Business Development Center out there. There is SCORE. Both of those are free services. And not only that, you get the expertise of a lot of different backgrounds. So I'm going to encourage all your solopreneurs to look into both of those organizations, because that's where I first went to when I jumped ship, you know, even though I've been in finance all my life, but I didn't have the wondering and the inventor to be able to start my business. And it was my SCORE mentor that found gaps and said, this need has to be filled. So back to your question, I would say, what is going to move your business quickest? Is it, can you do the work? So maybe hiring that receptionist would be the first if you're really good at the tech part. If you want to grow your business, maybe it is hiring a tech first. So you have to look at your own working geniuses and figure out what you want. What is your intent within the business? Because everybody has a different intention when growing their business. And so you have to really go back to what Pete said. What is your why? And how can you meet your community needs? So in some cases, I would say hire that CSR. In other cases, it might be, hiring that technician first. And sometimes it's hiring both and taking the risk, because what if you get that CSR and you get more work than you can possibly deal with, and now you have to take 6 months to train your technician to get them up to speed to your quality of standards. So it's a juggling act to determine what the next move is, because you have to understand what is the community needs. So is there a huge gap for your services in your area? So if you let loose some SEO, is it more beneficial for you to hire that receptionist or hire that technician? What is the trade-off that you're willing to take? Are you willing to hire that receptionist and possibly put in more hours because you now have more work than you can do? Or do you hire that tech in hopes that you're getting more leads? So those would be some of the questions I would ask.
Before you hop off, Kevin, any follow-up thoughts on this based on what you've heard and what you've observed in being in the industry for such long that we didn't address in the Sixth Genius and what they could do?
No, I mean, I really appreciate, Michelle's comments. I think, just around the things that she's doing with Maria's business and the solopreneur comments, some guys are a one-man business because that's what they want, and that's fine. If that's what you want, then, but to your point, those who want to grow, really do need to understand where their opportunities are. And, you were talking, as Michelle was talking, I was thinking about your comments earlier about SEO. And, if you're able to figure that out and, your phone starts ringing like crazy, yeah, it's hard. If you're by yourself and you're like, okay, how am I going to afford to pay somebody to answer the phones and hire another technician? Well, sit down, if you understand financial side of things well enough, sit down and look at the numbers. If you're picking up 2 or 3 new jobs a day because your phone's ringing, now you have somebody who can take every call. Because let's face it, if the phone rings and you answer it, the chances of you selling that job are 80% or better. You're probably going to sell the job if you can answer the phone. Mm-hmm. And so now if you've got a new person, a new technician, and they're trained and ready to go, and you can get to everybody within 24 hours that comes in, that's a no-brainer. You time it to the right time of the year, you've got all the SEO stuff working. So again, but it's understanding that. And whether you're using some of the resources Michelle talked about, I used to do some work for the SBDC and helping small businesses, and again, having those free services where you can talk through those challenges and have somebody share some of those insights. Again, you said it earlier, Franklin, it's one of my favorite comments. You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And that's the thing. And that's why it's important to have a mentor or a coach or somebody that, once or twice a month you're sitting down and you're able to just, especially if you're a wanderer or an inventor, you need to be spilling that stuff out, but you've got to have somebody that can help capture all of that and begin to say, okay, what are we doing with this? Hey, you know what? This makes a lot of sense. Let's figure out how to make this work. And then talking through that and then figuring out what pieces need to be filled in. And so again, I think, the solopreneurs out there, that's what they had to figure out is, where does it make sense for me to make my first investment? And, that may be to find a mentor. MPMA has a great mentor match program out there. There are a lot of people who are not even in that program. They're probably just in some of the groups on Facebook for our industry that you can just say, hey, I need a mentor. You know, it may be somebody who's been in the business less than you, but they have a different genius set than you do. You know, their working genius is different than you. So find somebody who has a different working genius. You may not be able to work together in the business specifically, but if you can have somebody you can at least talk through and process things with, they can help you make decisions you need to make to figure out, you know, what it is you need to do to achieve the goals you want. Again, your goal may be to stay on your own, doing your own thing. And that's great. You know, when you start getting up to be our age, Franklin, and you're a solopreneur, you got to start thinking, okay, well, what happens if something happens to me? What happens to my family? What happens to my business? What happens when I'm 65 and, you know, now I really need to think about retirement? What happens to my business then? What value is there? What should I do to position that? So there's just so many different things to be thinking about and you know, considering as you go through the whole process.
No, excellent. Thank you so much. I know you have to leave. We're going to be probably just a couple more minutes. Pete, any last?
Thank you, guys. Good to meet everybody.
Welcome. Thank you.
Nice to meet you, Kevin.
Any last thoughts, Petey?
Yeah, like, you know, talking about growing a company, so if we need to hire, like, I don't know, let's say an office manager or a technician, like what is our like natural go-to to be able to afford to hire somebody? What is it? Like add more revenue, right? Essentially. Right. And what I see within this industry is that what a lot of people do is they go, well, if we're going to hire someone, we need this many more clients to justify that expense or whatever. But what everybody's missing is if you provide like great service, or your clientele believe you, right? They never have an issue when you go out there. They just love your services. They refer you all the time, you know, out there. Then why do most people never increase their rates? Why do they always keep it the same? Because it's a very scary movement. You know, I wish I can like look at like all the increases that we've done over the years to go like, this is what it's valued at, right? And you know, and so that's why like the experience, user experience and the knowledge and everything is always important. And that's why we brought in floaters, you know, people who can provide those experiences, you know, to these new starts. So I remember like going from like in my first 3 months, you know, we were busy and I was like, I need to hire someone. And I called my wife's uncle who owns a successful business in Illinois. And I was like talking through him and I was like, but I need about this many people, you know, new clients to really justify the means. And he was like, just increase their rates, increase your existing customers. And we did. And it was like a $12,000 new revenue that came in that I can go, okay, this is an additional 12K that we get to utilize to start that movement, right? And I mean, there are, and like I said, if you provide good services, man, like customers, you get a very small percentage. I think we always erred on 10% loss, but we never exceeded 3% cancellation. And even like 3%, even at like when we were at like 5,400 clients, right? It was like, we were like at 1.7 cancellation rate or something like that.
Right.
When we increased the rates, but like increasing those rates at like at 5,400, I mean, that's massive jumps to business where now we're not working harder because you can't make more time. Right. So that means that like if you're maxed out and you can't make more time, it's like, how are you going to justify those?
Yeah. The single biggest mistake I see in their not ability to grow and hire, in addition to not having the skill set, is the fact that they underprice their services, thinking if I just underprice my service, I will have a lot of work.
It's a race to the bottom.
It's a race to the bottom. And then the other mentality is, well, my company used to rip people off. I'm going to be more fair about my pricing, not understanding that the reason that price was in place is because you're going to need all those levels of management and the salespeople and the CSRs. And then how the heck are you going to pay for them with those prices? So yeah, that's the inability to understand, their market and really, price themselves. Like most people are. I did a marketing, not to get off this topic, but I did a market price analysis at about 60 companies, and I found the median price and the average price. Everybody is charging the same. We've always been above that for a reason. And the reason is, one, we provide really good service. We have a unique service, but our people cost more to hire the people that we really want. So if I want the things that I say I want, I got to be able to sell it at a higher price to be able to afford these high quality people. And it's just a nature of it. And I just lost my train of thought because I'm a wanderer.
No,
That's
yeah, I mean, yeah, you were like on the right track, because it's like, know your audience, know it, but that is like, even like that's just one fraction of it, right? So like when you got to think like, in general, how do people react to everything that they're involved with? It blows my mind that like people wait in line at the drive-thru for Chick-fil-A when there's right next door, there's McDonald's that has a couple of cars, and but at Chick-fil-A, everything is wrapped around.
Right.
Why? Because people, it's sure the chicken sandwich is good, but it's consistent. You will always get 2 pickles on your sandwich, right? Your order is always going to be right. They're always going to ask, how are you doing? They're always going to say, my pleasure at the end. Do you get that same experience at McDonald's? No, because employees are not trained to appreciate their clientele. You got to remember, like, we're a society that values experiences.
Right.
Everything from opening up a brand new iPhone box. I mean, for crying out loud, there's YouTube stations that are surrounded by unboxing crap.
Yeah.
Right.
I know. Yeah.
Because we're a society that values experiences. And if we have a negative experience, then we tend to not use it. I was telling someone the other day, I go, this is why I don't go to freaking self-checkout at Walmart, because the line is massive. And if they don't appreciate my time or they don't value my time, then I'm not going to give them any business. Instead, now I pay somebody their time to go shopping for me so they can deliver at my freaking door now.
Right.
Right. Because, and that's the biggest thing. So like, even if you're the cheapest, you're a $75 pest control. Well, the thing is, you got to understand, the mass majority of people, it's not about like the cost. It's about how you value them and the experience that you give. And that's what they're saying. Like, so if people actually enjoy you, they will continue to buy your services, even though you continue to keep increasing it, because they know they like you, they know you, they trust you, and they believe that you're going to take care of their problems.
Right.
And so like, I mean, and that is 98% of everybody in America. It's like, it's all about like the experience that you give them, and then whether they feel valued by like investing in your services.
Right.
And if you just stick with that, I mean, that formula works. I mean, the marketing industry's already figured it out.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if people want to buy a frozen lasagna, they still buy either Maria's, or is it Marie's? Marie's. And then Stouffer's, right? They don't either go with either one. Even if there's a special like on one of them, they're still going to go with that because they know, they like, and it's got consistency to it. So they will continue with that path. Like, we're a creature of habits.
Maria, last words.
Last words. I really agree with a lot of what Pete was saying. I tend to operate in the like, just do it and figure it out later camp. So I'll go out and hire someone, and then I'll call Pete and be like, hey, yeah, I need you to create some more leads for me, because I got somebody who's sitting here staring at me. So that's the way that, and there's a quote from the CEO of Bigby that says, make the decision and work your ass off to make sure it was the right one. Right. And that's like that's the ethos that I live by. Like, really, I just go, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to kill myself to make sure that it worked, you know, like
Yeah.
I'm getting less and less like that the longer I've been doing it, but that really has been my secret to success. So when I talk to some of these folks that are figuring this out and trying to grow and doing it, my suggestion to them always is just like, just do it. Like, just do it, and you will figure it out as you go, because fear is the number one thing that I see. The fear and the scarcity are the number one thing. And Michelle's been super helpful with me in working through this, because it's like being afraid that it's not going to work is worse than any other thing, because guess what? You will make the move. Like, you'll figure it out as you go, and you will make the decisions necessary, because you have no choice but to, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think that has to, I mean, I when I talk to most guys, and it's mostly guys in the industry, is that they don't want to make the mistakes. And how, in other words, how do I hire the right person? In this case, we're going back to this because that seems to be the biggest sore thing. And then how do I make sure that they don't steal from me and they don't do this and they don't do that? And I says, guess what? You can't.
Good luck. Yeah, right.
In other words, we find out that when we talk about SOPs, they're on automatic. You still have to train on them constantly. Nobody's going to save you from the mistakes that you're going to have to go through, but it depends on your profile. That maybe if you're the kind of person that is risk averse and wants to have your security blanket, and you need to hire somebody that can pull triggers for you and say, let's just do it because I know I can make it happen. You deal with this part. And that's the problem, is that whole trust issue of, you know, in your case, you had a business partner that had the finances, but had also the trust in you, and you worked your butt off to make sure he didn't fail.
Correct. Yes.
And so these are the things that it's a lot of, again, our DNA, our geniuses, how everything is placed, and to figure out, okay, I am weak. I just had one guy say, how do I figure this out? I says, there was a quote that I posted the other day, that you not willing to basically go through the pain of the necessary pain to make something happen, you will have the pain of regret not doing it later, in essence, because that pain of like, I have to go through this, I have to stretch myself out. I might have to put that payroll on a credit card for 6 months until that guy pays off. I might have to put that advertising extra on a credit card and go 10, 15 grand into debt. And I am risk averse about doing that. I want to do it everything organically, and understanding that you just don't have all the skill sets to do a lot of the things that you're idealizing in your head, where the coach and the people who've actually gone through it say, no, you know, you're like, I have a friend who asked me, bro, how do I do the corporate structure, get it all lined up? Because he's thinking on this high level, but he's still down here. And I said, you should have paid $1,700 to go to the Seth Garber conference, because that's exactly what they covered. You know, but you know, I come from corporate, I can do all that for you, but that still doesn't tell you the how and why are you doing it? And basically, he hates managing people. He hates doing anything. He hates it. And he just hates, like, he has no patience for training, zero, no patience. Like, I told you once, and I don't understand. Are people, he asked me, are people this stupid? And I said, no, is that you have no patience for this. And you know, you're hiring somebody wanting them to be just like him. That's the biggest challenge.
So there's this example I love to use all the time, where, because I hear it all the time. I'm an artist, you know, we go to museums all the time. And what I see is I'll see people go, oh yeah, I could just throw paint and sell it too as well and make millions of dollars. But what they don't understand is that their perspective is just, it's very one-dimensional. They're not open to like understanding. Right. And that's the biggest thing, right? So like when we look at like the transition of art that went into like Impressionism, we look at things like Picasso, right? And we go, and people go, I don't get Picasso, I don't get him. Right. But the beauty of it and why he changed the way we view art is because instead of looking at something flat on a flat surface and you're only seeing one side of it, one dimension of it on a two-dimensional surface, what he's done is he's giving you a perspective from any angle, and he's giving you a full view of, like, let's say the flower in the vase. You could see the back side of the vase, you can see the top, you can see the under of it, you can see the front end, right? That's cubism, right? So you can see the whole entire object all on a two-dimensional piece. And so he's giving you like a three-dimensional view of it, and you can look at it from different perspectives. The beauty of this is that, like, when people go, oh, can I put it on my credit cards or whatever, right? That's one-dimensional thinking, right? So, you know, what a writer does is that they create a spider web. They go, this is a goal, and what are those spider webs that come off of it? And how can I achieve it? And let's look at it from every single different angle to make this thing work. Just like one of the things that, you know, it's like, one, increasing your rates. Another thing that I did was I sold my old house, paid off all the debt, and bought a bigger house. I paid the same amount in mortgage, but then I'm debt free, you know. But it took selling my house and outside the box thinking to go like, okay, I want to pay all this debt off. So how am I going to do that? I need to store this much money aside or whatever. And I need that money to work. I need that money to work for the company, right? And I can't keep borrowing. So the next best thing to do is go, what are my assets? Like, what are things that I can do that I can lessen the pain, lessen the financial burden, and make best decisions for the company. And that's the other thing too. It's like, it's not about me at this point. It's about like putting everybody's career, you know, up front and going like, and the health of the company and health of everybody, you know, the employees is going like, I can't risk, you know, putting things on credit card at a 28%, whatever. That's insane. Right. That's, you know, it's crazy thinking, right?
The other thing though, too, I think in this is to know yourself and to be very self-aware, because I think that they always say that like you can make very good money by yourself, or you can make very good money being large, but there's this in between, you know, phase that, and I think that there's a big piece to that too, for like, growth is not for everyone, and everyone doesn't enjoy that kind of stress. So I think like I've talked to a lot of people who are like, you're insane, you know, like I would never want that kind of stress, you know. And so there's a big value to that too, in people knowing themselves and to know like, do I want to live in that? Because like the truth is you are going to for a period of time, right? It does get better later, but I think that there's a big piece to that too, of like, not like, people need to understand what they're signing up for, because when you do take on debt and when you do take on other responsibilities, when you do have to pay someone and not pay yourself, you know, I mean, there's a lot of like decisions and choices in that you have to be willing to choose, right? And so like we can't come in and say that that's necessarily the right thing for everyone either.
Yeah, no, I
right.
get it.
And that's the thing, right? It's like we as human beings have to grow, right? I turned 46 this year. I don't know how to be a 46-year-old. It's a learning experience. It's like, even like with my oldest son, you know, it's like he gets really mad at us and I go like, I can only make decisions based off when I was 18. But you got to understand, like, I've never done this with an 18-year-old. I've never parented an 18-year-old before. When I think I got you figured out, you change everything again. And I'm going, what the hell? Like, I just thought I knew my child. And I go, you got to understand that we're both in that same boat and we're both pailing out water in a sinking ship together, because we're still a team. But we learn. I mean, and if we're not open to like learning or into like personal growth, then it's like you're kind of stagnant, right? You're set in your own little ways and like, this is how it goes. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that people, they get home, they decompress, they watch TV or whatever, but they don't invest back in themselves, you know? And mistakes are going to happen, and it's how we view mistakes, right? Like it's either like it's a mistake, I'll never do that again. But I believe that mistakes all mistakes have value, right? It's like if a mistake was like and a coin was double printed, and there's a mistake on that series of coins that run in, what happens with that mistake? It grows in value, right? So lots of things like that are by mistake grow in value. The coin is still there, it's utilized, it still spends the same, but to people, there's value in it. That's why, like, I stopped every time I would mess up a painting or something like that, I would go number 0012 mistake. And I would still sell my mistake art because, and it might be incomplete or whatever, but people saw value in it. It was like, oh, this is from the mistake series. So it's like, you got to understand, like, we can either look at it and say, like, I'm not going to do that. Or you can look at a mistake and go, like, I'm going to learn from that. And how can I make it better where I can add value? Or I remember one time we printed a bunch of yard signs and we forgot to put our stupid, state regulations on it. And I was like, well, that's stupid. That's like 12K of crap. And I go, oh no, let's just throw it in the backyard. Now people know we were in our backyard treating for mosquitoes. And then we implemented that and created that as a standard operating procedure, from then on. Because why? Because the phone calls tanked when because people go, oh, you never serviced my yard. He was never in my backyard. You never did the mosquito. And we're like, is there a yard sign back there? Yeah. And he goes, yeah, well, he totally went out there then. So, but like we could either just taken it, tossed it away, or utilized it and then created a standard in our company. And that's what we did. We utilized it and created a standard. And it, in turn, it minimized a lot of people calling and saying we didn't treat their property.
Interesting. Yes, who's got a thought?
My final thoughts would be, remember what your biggest asset is. It's yourself and your people. And if you're not choosing to invest, you're not choosing to grow. And surround yourself with people that have been there. That is the biggest thing business owners choose not to do, is go and look for people that are ahead of them. Those people know the mistakes that have been made. Those are the people that will willingly be of service to you and help guide you. And if you're choosing not to look ahead, that's when you're going to be stagnant. And that's the biggest thing I encourage solopreneurs, those that are doing it themselves, is to go find and surround yourself with the people that are going to help you grow, that are going to be mentors, and apply what they provide you. Because if you're just looking at a mentor and you're reading all the books and you're not applying it, it's all shelf growth. It's not self-improvement, it's shelf-improvement. Because all you've done is take that book, read it, and put it back on the shelf. You did not take any actions.
Yeah.
Excellent.
That's like taking actions, or even like redistributing your energy, right? So growth is all about growing and blossoming. But when you look at like fruit trees, you got to prune it, right? Why? Because it's using a ton of energy going up the trunk and out the branches to produce what? Growth. But what a lot of like what people forget to do is they forget that they got to prune certain aspects of their life, right? Like I can't be this person in a company anymore. I got to prune that so that my energy isn't going into that, so I can focus on the actual fruit itself. And you can like create it's a program called Espalia, where you can have 6 branches grow off of one trunk, and it produces way more fruit than a fully developed tree. Why? Because all the energy is being distributed through 6 branches, and all that energy can go into producing fruit, right? So you got to prune a lot of things. I think Maria's on that path of like pruning lots of aspects that take a lot of her energy, so she can focus on what's more valuable, and that's the fruit of her business. Right. Would you agree with that, Maria?
All right. All right, so I think we're good. We're almost at 2 hours, guys. I mean, I could go for another 3, and I'm sure we can go down some serious rabbit trails. But some of you actually got work to do.
Yes.
So thank you so much for being on. Kevin, I know is off right now, but thank you so much for contributing, for being on. Hopefully this will help a lot of people. Do me a favor, just shoot me a messenger with your contact info so I can drop it into the video. And then that way, if anybody needs to contact any of you, they can. Thank you for being on, Pete. Always a pleasure. Michelle, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for being on. Maria, always a pleasure.
Always.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank
Franklin.
you.